Hello, everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm your host, Shane McInnes. Hey, Steph Anomaly, how's it going? Hope everybody's doing all right. Hope everybody's having a good day. I'm not going to complain about mine. Seems a bit pointless in the light of all of the crazy stuff going on in the world. I have a home, I have friends, I have a job, I have my health. Perspective is an important thing for us to remember in the time of COVID. That doesn't mean I don't want to gripe, though. I am not a super philosophical individual at the moment. I know. I was just trying to be a bit. I don't know what's the word here. Stoic. Stiff upper lip, good old fashioned British. Crush builds! What up, Crush? How's it going, my friend? If you are not already, you need to go follow Crush Builds. Who does boss art? Good stuff. Really cool. You should go hang out in his channel. Good stuff. Lego. Let's do it. So, yeah. How is everybody? What's going on in your world? How's the history of you? Was doing a lot of work for that server. Oh yeah, man. Crush, by the way, just completely rebuilt his Discord from like the ground up, and it's looking spiffy. I could take some notes from that. Crush, if you want to throw Discord in the chat, go for it. You had a meh day at work, but tomorrow is Friday. Whoop whoop. Truth. So it's all good. Hey, ELO lover, how's it going? And welcome. Oh, for sure. Hey, Grethar. How's it going in your world? Glad to see friends. Glad to be amongst intelligent people. This is good stuff. I already feel better. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. All right, so there we go. Go join Crush's Discord. Boom. Oh my gosh, Steph Anomaly, you are, yeah. I mean, yeah, don't self-deprecate there. I'm gonna tell everybody. do tell everyone. Don't sell yourself short. Having a good one. Having to do peer review essay. Oh, you're having to do peer review an essay. You don't really know what you're doing. Hey, man. Well, I say man. I should not assume that you are a man. Hey, you. If you need some help, send me an email. Right here. I'd be more than happy to try to help you out if I can. So, there we go. I've got to write a paper this weekend myself. I'm not necessarily looking forward to it very much. Mine is a case study for a class in social psychology. Yeah, it's an interesting class. It's basically how people think in groups and how groups affect people's thinking. I don't know. You're a female, but don't mind being called a man. I will call everyone man as well. Yeah, I have a bad tendency to say man. I should fix that. I really should. Apologies. I will remember that. It's an interesting class. I call everyone dude. Is that because you watched Good Burger as a child and I'm a dude, he's a dude, she's a dude, because we're all dudes. Hey. Oh, yeah. I love all that show. Grew up on that stuff. No, but it didn't help. Is that stuck in your head now? Have I succeeded once again in getting a song stuck in your head? If so, I have achieved my goal for the night. Bag and Sag and Berry. Heck yeah. Good burger. Whoop whoop. Represent. Have you seen the title for the stream tonight, Steph Anomaly? That's pronounced chin, by the way. For those of you that haven't caught on yet, I always name my streams something that's like a bad pun on a song title or a bad pun from a movie quote or something like that. So... Hey, Jim Bob, how's it going, my friend? Welcome, welcome. Hope everything's going well up in your neck of the woods. I hope they finished doing all of that road work. Like every time I drive through Tuscaloosa, they're tearing something up. I think they've been doing perpetual road work in that area for about a decade now. Oh my goodness. Okie dokie. So, the stream is called Adventures in History. We talk history stuff. We make bad jokes. Laid back. That's right. That's right. I love rap music. I really do. They're still doing road work. Yeah, they're tearing down the stack at 920, I think. The road work is perpetual. Yeah, your entire life. So we talk about history. We make bad pop cultural references. Occasionally I get lured into singing rap music. It gets clipped and shared around the internet. I never live it down. I have no shame, so it doesn't bother me. Yeah, it is what it is. We make bad references to pop cultural movies. We talked about cheese for about 5 minutes last stream. Hey, you know, you never know what you're going to get. It's a mixed bag. But feel free to ask questions if you have anything. Throw some comments in. Wander around, make yourself at home. Dig around in the fridge. I think there might be some Indian food leftovers in there. We had Indian food last night. It was amazing. Shane has no shame rhymes beautifully. There we go. It's as if it was meant to be. Alrighty. So let's talk about some China. I almost, in my little window below me, I almost tried to figure out how to type out China, which of course is how a certain someone always says China. No gin and tonic? I don't actually drink, so I don't know what any of it tastes like. You hate that voice? I know. Sometimes I feel like I have to do it just to, I don't know, to laugh. Gin tastes like regret. I know that my wife occasionally has the odd gin and tonic, and has occasionally made some stuff with gin. No gin and tonic, but it's better than gin by itself. Make quinine more palatable. Yeah, okie dokie. Somebody's got a chemistry background. You posit it was a way to make gin more palatable. I wouldn't, yeah. I mean, I know it all smells like engine degreaser. Some of that stuff is pretty rank. Alrighty. So we haven't actually talked about China in a long time. I'm kind of using China as my reset button. So let me explain a little bit of my logic. So we are trying to go through history in a chronological order. But the thing is, the closer we get to modern day, the more stuff there is that we know really well, which means that there's more stuff for me to talk about. And this is not me complaining that I have stuff to talk about. I'm getting excited. I'm a giant nerd. I think we all are comfortable with this concept of me being a giant nerd. But what this means is I'm having to kind of take history in chunks. So the last kind of chunk that I did was about roughly 800 BC to about 500 BC, and I did that kind of across the board here. So we talked about, I'm wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt, and it's the old TV version, so I don't hide it. I am who I am. If you're here, you know what I'm like. If you don't like it, you can poke fun at me and I'll just laugh along. So we have kind of hit the point where that 700 or 800 BC to 500 BC chunk is almost expended. We've talked about lots of stuff that's happened in that chunk. We talked about the Shang and Zhou dynasties. Then we talked about the foundation of Buddhism. We talked about Persia and Zoroastrianism, and we talked about Jainism and the foundation of the Assyrian Empire, but then it fell apart, and we had like Phoenicians, and we had Greek city-states, and all of this stuff is happening at the same time. We talked about the foundation of Rome and the establishment of the Carthaginians, and again, all of that stuff is happening at the same time. So I'm kind of using China as my reset button. So we're going to kind of introduce the next kind of chunk or phase of time. And I'm going to run us in this next chunk from about 500 down to about 200. So we'll wrap up tonight talking about China at about the early, or I guess the very, very late 200s BC. So then we'll start kind of moving backwards, and we'll talk about some more stuff over in Greece and some stuff in Persia and some stuff in Egypt, and we've just completed an Avengers film, so it's time for the next phase of movies. That is a great way of saying it, and I am ashamed that I did not think of it myself. Yes, this is like phase 3, if you will, of adventures in history. It's not necessarily organized as well as the Avengers movies. Nobody has, Brian Michael Bendis, or what's the guy's name? Is it Kevin Feige? I can't remember the guy that's over all of the Marvel stuff now. They change it every 5 minutes. There's no mastermind at the helm. It's pretty much whatever I want to talk about. So, Kevin Feige. Is his name pronounced Feige or is it Feige? I've never actually heard anybody say it before. Can anybody phonetic that out for me so that I don't look like an absolute moron? And this is something I really should know as a nerd. I'm getting like minus 20. Feige. Okay. Okay. Is it German? That's an interesting name. Anyway. Feige. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Thank you. So now I have to earn my nerd points back. I'm sure that I'll be fine with that. Okay, so we're going to talk about China, and we're going to pick up where we left off. And as always, I have designed these episodes to completely stand alone. So if you haven't seen everything in the past, don't worry about it. If you want to go back and catch up on the VODs, go back and catch up on the VODs. But you can pop into this stream whenever you want to, and we'll have an entire discussion from a natural beginning to a natural end point, and it'll be okay. Don't feel bad about having to miss a stream. Don't feel bad about having to do life stuff. Oh, hey, check it. Oh, and of course now Firefox wants to run an update on me. Dad dang it, Firefox. Dad dang it. How do you... I'm glad that there are people in Marvel Studios that know we don't know how to say this guy's name. 5G. 5G. No, the G sounds like the G in God. 5G. Okay. Yes, definitely. I am totally a Firefox fan. I have been with Firefox since, like, the old logo actually looked like a fox. 5G. There we go. Alrighty. Let's pronounce some Chinese stuff. Alright, so we will pick up our story in China, which is this giant location over here. Boom. Big old China. So the ancient region of China is mostly going to be this sort of flat plain right around in here. It's got some hills and some mountains and stuff, but you can see it's nice and fertile. So this is mostly ancient China. Now, the modern day country is, of course, significantly larger here with the big yellow borders. Yeah, okay. But we're talking about ancient stuff, and it's mostly right in here. It's not until the later Imperial dynasties that they start getting over into, the area over here, up into the Tarim Basin, all of that fun stuff. We'll talk about the Han Dynasty in the next phase. In phase of the show. Anyway, so there's this really long ruling dynasty called the Zhou, and it's ironically not pronounced like it's spelled. The Chinese language has sounds that we don't make in English, and they have letters that we don't have. So translating Chinese names to English directly doesn't always work. So we've had to kind of mush some letters that don't really go together very well in English to make this stuff. And we get the Zhou dynasty. This is a really long ruling dynasty. It rules all the way from the kind of turn of the millennium BC into like the early 1000s, all the way until, at a later undecided point that we'll talk about today. I don't want to spoil the ruin or the ending for us. The word is transliterating. Yeah, I know. We do our best. We try. Thanks, linguistic dude. Anyway, so Zhou. It's pronounced Zhou. Well, the Zhou dynasty used to be really honkin' big. And it had this giant chunk of land that was... pretty much all of this. And they got real excited about that. But around 771 BC, they had a bit of a kerfuffle. And the king lost half the kingdom. All of this stuff over here got kaputted. And they end up left with... that Zhou was so hot at the beginning. It's not so hot now. They end up losing half of the kingdom, and they're left with just this big brown chunk right here that we refer to as the Eastern Zhou Kingdom, or the Eastern Zhou Dynasty. And the Eastern Zhou is going to be fairly powerful at the beginning, but the way that the Zhou Dynasty ran things was just not so great. At the time, they were playing this sort of Russian roulette with feudalism, and they were trying to make sure that only people from their family got into positions of power, which is great if your family members are intelligent and capable. But I think we all know that genetics is a cruel mistress, and we don't always roll natural 20s when it comes to the genetic lottery. Yeah, nepotism writ kingdom-wide. They tried to make sure that their family was all of the governors, that their family was all of the bureaucrats. Inbred genetics is even crueler. Well, the thing about the clans of China is that these got really, really big. And they got so big that some of the big houses had what they called cadet branches, where basically you were, like eighth or ninth cousins, and you were still technically part of the family, but everybody knew that your part of the family wasn't where the power was at. And your family kind of hung around in the wings in case something really bad happened to the actual ruling family, and then they might like slide one of your sons in as a regional sub-governor or some junk like that. So they didn't have widespread problems with genetic inbreeding. Not that they didn't marry their cousins. Ancient people marry their cousins a lot, even in China. Dun 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 dun. The globe is Allie. Did I say that correctly? If I did, welcome. If I didn't, please correct me on how to address you, and then I will welcome you properly. But thank you for that follow. And welcome to the adventure. So, the globe is a lie. There we are. The globe is a lie. Arabs marry their cousins all the time, and now they are infiltrating Europe. Okay, well, I think a lot of people probably still marry cousins. Even in America, it's legal to marry your first cousin in Alabama. So it happens. There we go. So, welcome to the chat. I will throw up the rules. Welcome, welcome. Your cousin is fine? Okay. We've got some Alabamians in the channel tonight. Okie doke. So, the Zhou, they're in charge, but everybody kind of knows that they're losing power. And the family members are getting so spread out that as the country goes on, there just aren't enough family members to kind of fit in all of the individual spots. So what ends up happening over time is that some of the other clans inside China start getting a lot of power. And when I say power, I mean land, military, and money. That GIF reminds me of the graphics you'd get from the games you'd type into your Apple. Oh, yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah, I love that GIF, though. So the Zhou are still the kings, and they still are holding what is called the Mandate of Heaven, which is this rule that says you get to be king because heaven, which is in China at this time, sort of the force of destiny in the universe, gets to pick you. So you are chosen to be the king, and the only way to prove that wrong is to kill the king, and nobody wants to do that, because if you lose, then you're like, not only have you rebelled against the king, and you're going to get in trouble for that, but you have also rebelled against the basic function and harmony of the universe, which means that you're not only sinning, you're not going to enjoy the afterlife. So, but that doesn't mean people aren't interested. And one of the states that has one of these clans that gets really big is the state of Jin. Jin Kozama. I don't know anybody is a Tekken fan. Jin's a good fighter. His moves are hard to pull off, but they hit like a beast. So Jin is a really big state, and the political situation inside the kingdom of Jin, or I'm sorry, the province of Jin is getting messy, because the Zhou are keeping or trying to keep like shoving in their family members into these positions, but there are 3 big families that live inside of the province of Jin already. There's the Zhao and the Wei and the Han, and they all sort of want to take over. And there's a big fight, and what ends up happening essentially is that the Joe King basically has to say, all right, here's how we're going to fix this problem of gin. We're going to chunk it up, and we're going to make 3 different provinces out of this. And the Zhao get a province, and the Wei get a province, and the Han get a province. And check under your seat right now. That's right. Everybody gets a province. You get a province. You get a province. Everybody gets a province. This causes lots of trouble. When the Zhou allows these 3 big families to sort of separate themselves off and make their own little provinces, this creates a whole bunch of new bureaucratic positions. Because when you have one province, you have like one minister of taxes and one minister of trade and one minister of the navy. Jumps on the couch. Tom Cruise! My favorite Tom Cruise quote is not actually a Tom Cruise quote. It's Ricky Bobby from The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, where he is on fire and he's yelling, "Tom Cruise, use your witchcraft to put the fire out of me." I love that line from that movie. It makes me laugh every single time I see it. Anyway, so with these new provinces come all these new positions. And there aren't Joe rulers to fit into all these positions. So this starts creating a lot of independence. And when you give some provinces more independence, everybody wants more independence, right? Because you're not going to be able to give one province what they might consider special treatment without doing the same for everybody else. So what ends up happening is a sort of domino effect where the Zhou dynasty ends up having to kind of browbeat its own ministers back in line. And some of these other states that are kind of part of the larger kingdom are going to start declaring themselves independent. Who is Tom Cruise? I only know Thomas Mothpar. Oh, that's his real name, yeah. You might have to check with Xenu. I think he's the guy that actually keeps the records now. Or David Miscavige. I probably shouldn't say David Miscavige because the Scientology person that's supposed to be monitoring me for being a suppressive person is probably going to come after me. I know quite a bit about Scientology, by the way. Mothra Thomas. I want to try to do the Mothra screech. It's like... You have Scientology stories if anyone wants them. I would be delighted to hear those. Thomas Cruise Mapothere the Fourth. Oh. By the way, Daria says hi. Hi, Daria. I'm glad that you're recuperating. I hope that everything is going well. But by the way, no comments on the Mothra noise. I thought that was a pretty good Mothra noise. I'm sorry. You've read about it and that made me sad. Yeah. Okay, so all of these states start pushing for independence. And some of them actually declare themselves independent. The state of Qi and the state of Wei say, we're just not going to follow the Zhou king anymore. We're going to be our own independent kingdoms. And as you might expect, this causes yet more issue because then the Zhou has to start looking for supporters. And if you were the king, you never want to be in a position where you have to go kind of hat in hand to your own people and go, "Please, sir, would you be on my side?" Because that makes you look real flippin' weak. And that's basically what happens to the Zhou. I thought it was cute. His childhood. I've seen the outside of the Scientology building in Clearwater, Florida, right down the road from the Capitol Theater. There we are. Your voice acting is gold. I love doing voices. There's a little thing down below in the Adventure Point Redemptions to get me to do impressions. I can't do everything. I'll try though. I have no shame. So if you feel like making me do something silly, go for it. You don't have to. No pressure. You might be saving your points up because they're cool stings in there. So the Joe Kings are in trouble. And what ends up happening is that a particular group, a particular family called the Chin, are going to be more than happy to help out the Joe. And they do this by essentially taking over. The Chin is a very large state inside of the kingdom. It has a large population, and most importantly, it has a real big military. And if you're trying to keep all of your other people in line, you gotta have the people with the pointy stuff, because that's how you get people in line in the ancient world. And the Joe are going to become so reliant on the Chin that the Chin start placing advisors inside the king's closest kind of semicircle, the little retainer group around them. And the Joe are effectively stuck at that point. They recognize that they are becoming beholden to the Chin, but there's not really anything that they can do about it because they don't have the power. Godzilla having an awkwardly heated conversation with Mothra over dinner in a fancy restaurant. Oh, goodness. All right. Give me just a second. Okay, I had to do that to make sure it sounded kind of like Godzilla before I debuted it. There you are. The end was Mothra going like, "Do you see these people? This is the quality content you signed up for." Please, you know it's going to end up clipped. You married this person. No take backs. You can't triple stamp a double stamp. All right. So by about 350 or so, the Chin have effectively set up a position where they are kind of running the kingdom from behind the throne. And everybody recognizes what's happened. And they know that the Chin have this arrangement with the Joe, and they know that the Chin are sort of pulling all of the strings behind the back. They know that the Chin have all the juice, which is where the title comes from, Chin and Juice. I was working my way towards that the whole show, by the way. You would have paid twice the points for that. I'm glad you got your value's worth. So by 325, he said it. He said the title. Oh, God have mercy. Okay, I'll be absolutely honest. The Godzilla thing kind of makes my throat a little sore. So if we could kind of like... if we could at least hold off until the end of the stream for more screechy noises. I don't actually know if I can do Flipper. Give me just a second. I can't really do the Flipper. It's going to sound really bad. Because when I do the high pitch thing, I'm actually like breathing in, but I can't I can't bounce my diaphragm enough to make it sound like the ee thing that Flipper does. So it sounds pretty horrible. So Godzilla and Mothra are in their issue, and they're doing the and and then Flipper comes in and goes so you can hear it from the next room. So I don't know what Peter Cetera sounds like. That's the problem. And see, that's another thing. Like, I'm limited by what I can come up with in my brain. So, yeah, you got to have the flipper hands, because that's the only thing that really distinguished it from the Mothra and the Godzilla noise. The rapidity and the flipper hands. You got to do the flippers. It might surprise you, or it might not surprise you, that I was very briefly a theater major. I did theater in high school, and I did theater in college. I would do theater now if I had time. I really enjoy theater. It's really cool stuff. I like pretending that I'm somebody else. It gets kind of boring being me sometimes. You get stuck in your own head. It's all weird. There we go. So, by 325 BC, what we're stuck with is the Qin dynasty, the Qin hegemon. You don't know Peter Cetera, singer from Chicago? I mean, I know him, but I don't think I could do like an off-the-cuff impersonation of him. You did opera, which is extra dramatic theater. There we are. I can sing okay. I've been in several bands before. I play a couple of different instruments. I was going to ask for impression. No. You can go ahead and do it. Just like, let's try to lay off the like high-pitched squealy stuff, because that kind of gets on my throat. But if you've got one, drop it, man. Go for it. Never feel bad about interrupting me. I'm here to hang out with you all just as much as I am here to talk about history. So, all right. By 325, Qin decides that they're basically going to dissolve the arrangement, because they really don't need the Zhou anymore. They had used the king to the point where they had gotten preferential treatment. They had gotten land given to them because, you're blackmailing the king who controls all the land. And what we end up with is a situation where the Zhou king is not really going to be running the country. And it's not really going to be a country. We enter what we call the Warring States period. And the map of China goes from looking like that to looking like this. And you have all of these different chunks of people, and they're all this joking, but not humor. Yeah. So you can see here, like right here, this tiny little chunk is all that the Zhou control at this point. And everybody is kind of going to be out for themselves. Puns are very much welcome, by the way. Very much welcome. Wordplay, puns of any sort. Absolutely. So, the Warring States period is jacked up. We get into this 10-way, over-the-top rope battle royale civil war. And it gets nasty. As you might expect, the Qin are going to be kind of in the driver's seat at this point. The Zhou are going to be figureheads. They're not really going to have very much power. And all of these other independent little states are going to start calling themselves kingdoms. And that's when you know that you've lost control, right? When you can't keep your states from declaring themselves independent and becoming kingdoms. So you have these really, really nasty alliances where people will be friends with you for one battle, and then like the next couple of days they'll go team up with somebody else and they'll fight another battle against other people, and everybody's constantly playing this like three-dimensional game of Tetris chess and rearranging stuff, and you have these alliances between lots of different states that are trying to take on another state, and then some people are like, oh, well, we really feel like we need the legitimacy, so we'll go ally ourselves with the Zhou, and the Zhou are constantly trying to sit behind the scenes and like play these people off of each other and try to retain some semblance of power when they really don't have any. They don't have enough military to really do anything. And things are going to get really, really nasty right around the 300 mark. About 300 BC, two of these states are going to start using the title Emperor. And in Chinese, the title is Di. Now, this is a statement. If you're in a 10-way civil war and you call yourself the Emperor, this is assuming that you have enough power to beat all of the other states. So the two states that claim this are the Qin and the Qi. They're two of these kingdoms. Well, the Qin and the Qi sort of split China up, and the Qin are going to rule over... the Qi are going to rule over in the east, and the Qin are going to rule over in the west. And when they start calling themselves emperors, all of the other states get real hacked off. Because everybody had been a king, and as long as everybody was king, yeah, it's fine. Worked for Palpatine. Go for Papa Palpatine. So, by saying you're emperor, you are claiming to rule us. And the other states get real hacked off at this use of the title of emperor. And they send some very strongly worded letters to these two emperors, the emperor of the Qin and the emperor of the Qi, and they say, we don't want you to be emperor, and if you keep claiming the title emperor, we're going to come get you. And it's really ironic that in some of this wording they actually kind of say, because the Zhou are really the kings. And we're like, Zhou hadn't been king for 50 years. What's up with that? So this is where the Qin are actually going to do something really smart. They're going to say, oh, we're sorry. We won't use the title emperor anymore. We'll stop being emperors. But the Qi, they go, oh, all right, well, that makes us sole emperor, so we rule everything. But what happens then? Well, what happens is that the Qin allies its big ol' honkin' army with all of the other states, and they go beat the doo-doo out of the Qi. They beat them to a pulp. So much so that the Qi doesn't really exist anymore. And then, guess what? There's nobody else to claim emperor. The Qi end up with only 2 cities left to their entire kingdom. And the guy that is claiming to be the Qi emperor won't give it up. And his own people recognize, guy, come on, man. They're beating the snot out of us. We're done. You're not an emperor. And he's like, no, I'm an emperor. And his own people go, we're really sick of getting murdered, so we're just going to murder you. And his own people kill him. And they go, well, guess what? You're not emperor anymore. And the Qi from that point forward fall out of the warring states because their family is so shamed and reduced by murder that they don't have any power left. It's pretty savage. Yeah, if you want to claim emperor, you got to be able to back it up. And guess what? If you can't back it up, remember, if you say that you are the ruler, and if you claim the mandate of heaven, and if you say that heaven is yours, that yours is the destiny, the only way to prove that is to win. So if you keep losing and losing and losing, and you get down to like your little capital city and one little village outside of it, and your own people are like, dude, you got to quit, and he's like, no, I'm emperor. They're going to kill you because you're a rebel. You're not legitimate. You're not winning. But what happens? Well, that's the biggest enemy of the Qin that they just got rid of, because they played nice and they gave up the title of D, and they go, no, we're not emperors. And hashtag Tiger Blood, right? So the only other state that could potentially cause some trouble for the Qin is the state of Zhao. And they had a pretty big military. They had a very well-established military. They had good leaders. They had good strategy. Lots of really intelligent, kind of strategic thinkers. We're going to talk about Chinese philosophy next week. And we'll kind of get into some of this sort of battle strategy stuff. And we'll talk about Sun Tzu and the art of war and all of that. But the Zhao and the Qin are going to recognize real quick that nobody else is going to be able to win this. It's kind of like Highlander, and this is the end, and there could be only one. And nobody expects it to be the Zhou, right? So the Qin and the Zhao are going to start beating the mess out of each other. And this is like a heavyweight boxing tournament. Like they are slugfesting it out, and it gets really, really brutal. Both sides start bringing out like the top crazy level military commanders that have all of these intricate battle strategies where like feints and fake advances and mixed unit tactics, and we're bringing in, new technology to the battlefield, and we're getting rid of this stuff, and we're switching. Anyway, it's really, really drawn out. But there's a series of really big battles, and in the last one, the Qin battle strategist manages to completely outsmart the Zhao military. And according to the stories that the Qin wrote, it's important to recognize here that the Qin wrote this history. They had this one big battle where they captured 400,000 Zhao soldiers. Now, that's almost certainly way overestimated. But the idea is here that with this single victory kind of at the end, the Qin manages to land the knockout blow against the Zhao. And the Zhao are kind of left with not really anything else to do. So, guess who decides to call himself an emperor again? The leader of the Qin. And he starts using a particular symbol. And that symbol, wait for it, boom, the dragon. That's right, the dragon. And this particular dragon is the Imperial dragon. If you note, it has 5 toes. Those are some nice looking toes there, Mr. Dragon. Oh, you have 5 of them. Well, that makes you Imperial. There are actually several different types of dragons in Chinese mythology, for those of you that are unaware and don't really seem particularly impressed by my goofiness. That's okay. I'm a giant nerd. But when you start claiming emperor, then you gotta mean it. And guess what? They mean it. The Qin are the only big power left, and they decide, you know what? We could kind of keep the Zhou around as a, like a toy or a relic. We were told how to tell the difference between dragons. 3 toes, Japanese, 5 Chinese. See, there we are. We're working on stuff. But how long does it take for an emperor to collect all 7 balls to summon him? It depends. Does he have to fly to Namek to do it? Perhaps. If so, most of a season. And if it's in America, a long time. So the Qin are going to take over. I've got a picture of the last Zhou emperor. I feel like I need to show at least one of them. This is King Nan, which I've always thought was super ironic and a bit of a really bad pun, because if you asked him how much power he had none. Right. King Nan. But we do have a new guy who's going to claim that he's emperor, and he is the dragon. And what is his name? This guy. Can you hear my groan all the way from Tennessee? I hope so. No, but I felt it in the force. So this guy is going to be our first actual Chinese emperor. His name is Qin Shi Huang. Now, if you've ever studied Chinese history, you might have heard this guy called by about 8 different names, because he's got all sorts of titles and he gets called by all sorts of things. So if you've ever heard of Shi Huangdi, it's this guy. If you've ever heard of Shi Huangti, it's also this guy. If you've ever heard of Zhao Jing, it's also this guy. Or if you've heard of Qin Shi Huang, it's this guy. When you get this big and fancy and powerful, you get all sorts of cool names. You get all sorts of cool titles that people call you and write them down in the history books. What you need to know, or what I would like for everybody to remember, this guy is the first real emperor of China. But when he says, I'm the emperor, and he gets rid of King Nan, all of the other states are like, but you said you weren't going to be emperor. And he's like, I lied. And of course, they all try to gang up and stop him. So he declares himself emperor, and he goes, I'm emperor. And then they immediately fall into another war. And this war lasts for another 26 years. And in this unification war, what's going to happen is Qin Shi Huang is going to go from state to state inside of China and beat their pants off to the point where they can't do anything but submit to his rule. And he's going to do this in a very planned and a very systematic way, because he recognized that one of the issues inside of China was these sort of regional differences, right? These provincial differences. If you went to some of the states, things were a little bit different. They had a little bit of a different dialect. They might have used a different monetary system. They might have used a different system of weights and measures. But he goes, no. If you are in my empire, you are speaking my version of the language, you are using my version of the money, and you are using my system of weights and measures. And we're not going to have this sort of folksy, regional dialect anymore. Everybody's going to speak properly. And I get to decide how you speak properly. No more of your stuff. So when he beats you, not only does he make you swear allegiance to him, then you have to accept the new standardized version of everything. So that gets under people's skin, but as you might expect, he's got a big honking army and he doesn't really care. He'll kill you. He kills tens of thousands of people that are not involved in the war. If you get in his way, he will get rid of you. He's a big old dude. You don't get to be emperor collecting bottle caps, right? So after this big unification war, which takes from 247 BC until 220 BC, he's going to be running around China beating up on China. And by the end of that, what he's left with is a unified country and a unified army. Because when he's taking these places over, he is adding their armies to his own. Throws away bottle cap collection. Dang it! No, don't throw those away. We have to keep them as currency for the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Don't ever throw away bottle caps. We already know what bottle caps are good for. Buying mini nukes. Bottle caps are currency. Exactly. So, when he pacifies China, he's still got another, good 13 years of rule under his belt. So what do you do with that much time as an emperor? Well, you go kill other people. And he's going to start expanding Chinese territory. And he's going to start taking over people that were not even originally part of the Zhou dynasty. He's going to start adding new people groups from the Chinese region to his larger empire. And he is going to expand up into this region, into the northern part of China. He's going to send military raids all the way as far down as Vietnam. And he's going to start taking over whole chunks of what we would call today southern China. Because he can do that. He's got a unified powerhouse empire behind him that he has standardized and cowed into submission. He's going to expand. And how does he do that? With his big ol' honkin' military. So by the time we get to the height of his rule, he's a kind of handsome guy, isn't he? His empire now looks like this, which is substantially larger than it was under this. So, did Vietnam campaign also happen to perpetual playlist of Fortune 1? No, I don't think. I don't think that there was a Creedence Clearwater revival. I could have made a pun then. I could have made the Cheatance Clearwater revival. Fortunate Son. He did take on a title that meant Son of Heaven. So there's something with a sun pun in there. So when Qin Shi Huang is expanding, he runs into a lot of different people. There are people down in the south called the Yue that he takes over. He goes up into the north to fight against these people called the Hu. And you go, the Hu? Yeah, the Hu. Those people, the Hu. I think that's actually the name of the Mongolian metal band. Are they called the Hu? Or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, same rough region. That area up in northern part of China on the border here's up in this region. There were some people up in that area that were still very nomadic. People that were horse culture. Yes, it is. Love them. The Hu are great. They do some kind of like... They play traditional Mongolian instruments in heavy metal. Who's on first? Welcome, Vern. So when he starts raiding up into the north, he finds out that it's really hard to pin these people down. These nomadic people, when they see him coming, they'll just pick up their yurts and they'll ride away. And he gets kind of tired of chasing them, so he decides that the way to keep them out is to build a big wall, which of course we know is the greatest way to keep people out of a country ever made, and surely will never fail. And you may have heard of the Great Wall of China. If you go Google Great Wall of China, the stuff that you're looking at is actually much, much younger. It comes from well into the AD time period. Two on the nose. Yeah, sorry. My bad. I tried to make it goofy. I didn't really succeed. I felt kind of bad about that one myself. If you want to see what the remnants of the Qin wall looks like, it kind of looks like this. there aren't very many sections of it left, and it really was just a whole bunch of piled stones. Uh, it wasn't necessarily very tall. The highest point was maybe 15 feet tall. It didn't really have the big, nice, like crenellations walking around on the top tower kind of thing. It was mostly just designed to make it really hard to move horses around, right? If you've got to try to lead a horse over a wall, that's a pain in the rear end. A human being can climb a wall. A horse is not going to climb a wall, right? So this is to keep these horse people from being able to invade. But this is not the Great Wall of China. So that comes, again, much later. But the idea is the same because they're trying to keep out basically the same people. All you are is just another brick in the wall. Yeah. That's Chen Shi Huang for you. The guy was a bit of a mess. But he did a lot of stuff. He revolutionized the military. Like when he was taking over all of this stuff, he is going to be responsible for basically bringing China's military out of the Bronze Age. He is going to formally get rid of all bronze weaponry and fully adopt iron weaponry and armor. He's going to get rid of chariots, which had been a staple of Chinese warfare for over 1,000 years, going all the way back to the very beginning of the Shang Dynasty. So that was the kind, small, but at least long wall of China. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Not the Great Wall, just the kind of small, but at least really long part. It did stretch on for a couple 100 miles. It took a lot of labor, and people did not like building it. It took a lot of money, too. But one of the other things so he gets rid of the chariot, which, again, is a really big deal because to abandon the chariot as a staple of battle means that you have to replace it with something. What's like your... What's your response? And his response was horseback archers. And he's going to move away from chariots and to cavalry. And he's going to also invent, well, he's not personally going to invent, but he's going to begin to employ some new types of weapons, including some of the earliest historical uses of these guys. The crossbow. The crossbow turns a foot-bound archer into a mobile weapons platform. This crossbow, it looks like a crossbow, but if I told you that this right here, the sort of the width of this bow is probably close to 5 feet, and that this right here was meant to be tucked under one arm and held up at the front by another arm, these things are big. Like, if you just kind of chopped off the cross part of it, you could use this as a full-sized bow. So today when we think crossbow, usually we think these sort of compact things that are smaller and sort of more maneuverable. This is a big honking crossbow. And this will throw a bolt through iron armor. Those archers did have to be jacked. There's a little place right here at the front for you to put your foot so that you could put it on the ground and pull the... so like you put the crossbow kind of into the ground and braced it between your feet, and then you pulled it back with both hands to get it to lock. Also much easier to shoot and aim than normal bows. You can make a lot of people upset shooting at them with crossbows. I don't want to be shot at with a regular bow, but Chen Shi Huang is going to use crossbows for his archery units. And this guy, I'm telling you, like, he's not a nice dude, but he is super effective at what he does. He is incredibly intelligent. He is very good at organization. He can think sort of in that good, like, outside of the box way where you're not insane, you're just kind of like almost hyper sane. Like you're the one that sees the code in the Matrix, you know? But he's also got, and you can make people dead too. There you go. Crossbows turn peasants into archers. Right. You don't have to know how to shoot a bow anymore. Your job is to just kind of look down this thing and aim. You're only insane when it doesn't work. Right. Right, exactly. So he does have a bit of a secret weapon when it comes to the mind, though, because he has Qin Shuang. Good gracious, I can't even say words now. Blah. I gotta slow down. I'm getting excited about this stuff. I love this period of China. Qin Shi Huang has a very important advisor. And this is him. He doesn't have very many images. This is a pretty bad images of him. This guy's name is Li Si. It's spelled Lisi. Li Si is one of those people that like if you gave them the keys to the kingdom, would turn things into this highly functioning, smooth, well-oiled machine thing where everybody was crushed under the heel of the government. Li Si was a follower of legalism, which was a particular... let me put his name here. Li Si and legalism. Legalism was a particular type of philosophy that became almost so emphasized by Qin Shi Huang that it was almost a religion. Not shady at all. Oh yeah, he's totally shady. This guy is like, he's kind of like the Rasputin. He is the Saruman of Qin Shi Huang, the guy that stands behind the throne that just knows how to do everything and gets stuff done, even if it involves crushing people under his boot. It's nasty stuff. I typed that just looking at his picture. Right? So, legalism is a philosophy, but again, it's almost so emphatic under Qin Shi Huang that it almost becomes a religious dogma, because the head of state, or like the leader, which of course is Qin Shi Huang, Disney villain material, absolutely Disney villain material. Qin Shi Huang is Disney villain material too. I don't know if you can have a Jafar to a Jafar. That would be more Jafar than Jafar. But if you could, this guy would be double Jafar. So, in legalism, under Qin Shi Huang, and with the influence of Li Si, Li Si was a fan of a previous big proponent. We'll talk about legalism next week. I won't belabor the point here. But effectively, your job and your goal in life was supposed to be follow the friggin' rules. And that is the prime directive. The emperor sets the rules, and your philosophy should be, I follow the rules. And that's why it's called legalism, because the law was your code. And they started passing a lot of laws that looked almost like religious commandments. But, like Scar working for Jafar, yeah, that's wicked. That kind of stuff, yeah. I would say more like Jafar working for Hades, though, because Qin Shi Huang flew off the handle and had a really bad temper. So, slightly modified, but same premise. 420 legalized? I don't know if they actually had marijuana in China at that point. I know that they had shrooms, and I know that they could get high, but I don't know if they actually had marijuana. So this legalism got sort of ramped up, and it got so bad. It got really, really overblown. And it came to the point that Li Si and Qin Shi Huang realized that to fully implement their particular versions of like the way that they saw the world, they were going to have to start good old-fashioned suppression. And this is going to be the end of a very important period of time in Chinese philosophy called the 100 Schools of Philosophy, which we will talk about a lot more next week because it really is important. Most of the ideas that are sort of the foundations of Chinese philosophy come out of the Zhou dynasty during a period of time that they called the 100 Schools of Philosophy. And this is where you see the origins of things like the yin and the yang, the origins of Taoism, the beginning of Confucianism, legalism's birth, all of these really, like Moism. Moism's not around anymore, but it was really important back in the time. All of these ideas are moving around inside of the government of China, and there are a lot of people that follow these different schools of thought. But you can't have that, because again, Qin Shi Huang is all about the standardization, right? We don't want independence to be an option. Your job is to follow the friggin' laws. So he starts outlawing ideas. And he puts Li Si in charge of basically rounding up the 100 Schools of Philosophy and destroying them. And they burn books, they burn down buildings, they kill teachers. They basically outlaw anything that isn't based on like an agricultural manual. Like, hey, we've still got to know how to grow crops. So you can keep agricultural manuals. You can keep books that tell you how to predict the future. And you can keep history books as long as they are the history books that have been pre-approved by Qin Shi Huang. So he also has kind of like a sanitized and quasi-standardized version of history that he's putting out. But if it's a book that talks about philosophy, or if it's a book that talks about morality, and even some old religious documents, lots of poetry stuff, burn it. Get rid of all of it. Because it's dangerous. It's dangerous for you to think like that, because your job is to follow the friggin' rules. And you can't step outside of that bubble, because to be under Qin Shi Huang means to serve Qin Shi Huang. He is the head of state. The state, like, I don't know how to say I am the state in Chinese. That'd be great. I wish I had Lee here. Qin Shi Huang joke books are right out. I don't know. Did he write the jokes? If he wrote the jokes, they'd probably be okay. But if he is the butt of the jokes, yes, right out. It does sound awful. It was horrible. We are the dream police. We live inside your head. Yeah, basically. This was Big Brother Chinese style. The destruction of this wisdom is the end of certain knowledge. There are schools of philosophy that existed for hundreds of years prior to Qin Shi Huang that we know virtually nothing about, because he was so effective in wiping them out that they were gone from history forever. We have references to them in other histories, but a lot of the stuff that we have is anti-them propaganda from Qin Shi Huang. It's horribly sad. I'm telling you, this guy is not a nice dude. In modern Chinese history, if you read the official government version of their history, because China today, just to remind everybody, still very much has an official and very much sanitized version of their own history. So, like, if you go read the Chinese history, you don't hear about a lot of this stuff. You hear about Qin Shi Huang unifying the people, bringing an end to the wars, being a great leader that brought China together and helped them crawl out of a dark time in their history, which is all true from a very narrow point of view. They don't mention the mass murder. Nobody wants their their historical figures to be gigantic mass murderers. I did not know that you could actually type Chinese into the chat. Equivalent to the Library at Alexandria burning. Yes, this is centuries worth of history and philosophy and literature and poetry that we will never have again. Wo Shizhou. Does that mean I am the state? Did you look that up on Google Translate, or do you know Chinese? Wo Shizhou. I am the state, according to Google Translate. In French, it's La Stat c'est moi. That's a very famous quote that Louis XIV made. That's how I don't know if anybody put the Louis XIV quote together with this. I know lots of really weird history, and in my brain, all of this stuff crosses over and connects with each other. I am the Senate. Yeah, that got stolen from France. Louis XIV Sun King stuff. Wo Shizhou. I'll have to talk with Lee, friend of the channel Art of Lee. If you are not following Art of Lee, you should go follow Art of Lee. He's a cool guy and has a really cool stream. So they purge ideas. And in the process of this standardization, they also start eliminating the feudal structure. China had been under a feudal structure since the beginning of the Zhou dynasty back in 1046 BC. So for 800 years, China had been a feudal country. Qin Shi Huang says no feudalism. He owns all the land. And not only does he own all the land, he owns all the land, and you don't get to live on it without his say-so. He doesn't give you the control over the land. You basically live where he tells you to live, and you say thank you. He has a very tightly centralized bureaucracy. He divides the country into 36 districts, and he purposely divides these so that no district has more than one big city. And this was a calculating tactical move because he had been in enough fights with people to know that if you leave them multiple big cities, that means you got to conquer both of those cities to take out the leadership. So if your little tiny district where there used to be 10, now there are 36, and you only have one city, well, guess what? If he wants to squish you, you're squished because you're going to go run back to your city, and now he's bottled you all up in one little spot. The ancestor of gerrymandering. I'm telling you, this guy's got it in the bag. He knows how people think, and he's outthinking them before they even think it. He's playing 10 moves ahead. And Li Si is right there with him. This guy is wicked smart. He's getting laws passed all the time that are making his position, basically the prime minister, is a position that sort of gets created specifically by Li Si so that he can stay in power even after Qin Shi Huang dies. Because by this point, Qin Shi Huang's getting up there in age. He's an old dude. Li Si's got another couple decades of kicking around. And if he can secure his spot in prime minister, well, guess what? Qin Shi Huang's got sons. And he can just kind of hang on to power and be the right hand of the son. So Qin Shi Huang also starts building stuff. Now, we talked about the big wall that he started building, but he also starts building these really crazy level stuff. It kind of stinks when intelligence is wasted on being evil. Yeah, it does. Anybody want to quote Uncle Ben from Spider-Man here? So one of the things that Qin Shi Huang builds is this blue line right here. And I know that it's kind of difficult to tell. This is a topographical map of China. But let me explain to you what we're looking at here. So With great power comes great responsibility. There we go. That's the catchphrase of old Uncle Ben. And if you missed it, don't worry. They'll say the line again and again and again. So on this side, you have the Xiang River, which flows up into the Yangtze River. And on this side, you have the Li River, which flows over into the Yellow River. And this blue line that we see running across right here is one of Qin Shi Huang's building projects, because he decides that he needs a 23-mile-long canal that connects those two rivers, because he wants to be able to invade southern China, and he wants to be able to move his troops by water. So he wants to be able to connect these two river systems so that he can sail all the way down from his capital city all the way down into the southern part of China, moving his gigantic army around. Let me remind everybody, in the ancient world, we don't have mechanisms like we have today. So if the emperor says, I want a 23-mile-long canal built, you got to get out there with the shovels. You're the worst, Peter. The worst. Oh, man. You all. So, how many people want to go build a 23-mile-long canal? Called the Lingkou, by the way. It's called the Lingkou Canal. And he wants it to be deep enough so that he can move his troop transport ships on it. These troop transport ships have drafts that are 14 or 15 feet deep. Slaves? Is it slaves? No, it's not slaves. It's the peasants. Peasants! Is there any problem that can't be solved by throwing more peasants at them? So he changed the course of mighty rivers? Yeah, he did. And he had a 23-mile-long canal dug that connected these two river systems. Paid slaves? If you mean they were given enough food that they didn't fall over dead, yeah, paid. But if you mean compensated for their labor fairly, no. No, not like that. We call them independent contractors these days. Oh, sorry, Kyle. I didn't mean to laugh at that. That might be too close to home. Yeah. So we got half the population up building a giant... It's not half. We've got a large portion of the population up in the northern part of China building a giant wall. We've got another part of the population over in the southwestern chunk of the country digging a 23-mile-long ditch that's 20 feet deep. It's called the gig economy. Oh, yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? They couldn't unionize either. So, here's to all the Uber drivers. Sorry, guys. Interns? Can you kill interns? Well, let me rephrase. Can you kill interns and get away with it? I don't think you can kill interns and get away with it. If you didn't do what Qin Shi Huang told you to do, he could kill you and get away with it. Because he's the law. And under his system, you follow the friggin' rules. So he's got this big army running around too. So what are all of the people doing? Well, guess what? He understands something. This is actually a calculated decision. If he keeps the majority of the male population of China building a wall or digging a ditch or running around in the military, who has the time to rebel? Who has the strength and the resources to rebel? See, it's even smarter than you thought it was. Because he is pacifying the population of an empire with these enormous building projects and with this constant warfare. Because he knows that if he sits still, they're going to start gunning for him. But he's not going to be still. It's not his way. There's one more really big building project too, by the way. He's the emperor. He's the first emperor. He's the Dragon Emperor. And if you've seen the really bad third Mummy movie, you know where I'm heading. Hey, wait, why are we doing all of this? Right? Chen Shi Huang builds himself one of the largest tombs in history. Here you see one room of it. Yeah. The tomb itself has not, to this day, been completely excavated. This is the very famous Hall of the Terracotta Warriors. He's the Terracotta Army dude. He is indeed, Vern. He is indeed. Each one of these statues is life-sized, and each one of them is unique. If you walked up to one of these, you would see the face of a very real person that one time was in the actual personal bodyguard of Chen Shi Huang. Every single one of those statues is unique. Each one of the facial features of those statues is of an actual human being. And there are hundreds of them. They went pretty industrial at building these warriors. Yeah. Yeah, they really did. There was an entire fleet of sculptors and artisans and architects. He even had an industrialized system with government contracts to deliver clay. Are you sure those just aren't bodies inside and that's why they're your... Well, I mean, I can see where you would think that. He did have the penchant for getting rid of people. And he did, at times, perhaps go a bit, I don't know, overboard. Keep the artist busy too. Yeah, exactly. We don't want you coming up with thinky things. We want you doing this stuff. But the tomb is so big, so much bigger than that. Inside of the tomb, there is a big floor map of his empire, and the like all of the locations are inset with gemstones. There's like jade forests and like big emeralds and rubies and stuff that represent where cities were. There's a dome that has like a skylight, like if you went outside and looked up at the night sky and you see all the stars, but the stars were like diamonds. There was, inside of this, a moving river of mercury that floated little bits of his ships around where all of his construction projects were. Because if you fill it up with water, well, that water is going to eventually evaporate. But if you fill it up with mercury, guess what? That's going to be liquid forever. If this was a movie, there would be a spell that would animate them. Yeah, and they would all come to life, and we'd be fighting in the bad third one. They mark the pieces so it could be traced to who made what. Yeah. So like if you take the heads off and you look like inside the back of the neck, the artist would have like their imprint, their artist mark. Is there a ruby yacht? I think maybe there was a... I can't recall specifically about a ruby yacht. Delicious, skin-absorbable mercury. Well, yeah. Mercury in the ancient world is very... it's hard to really get a grasp on. There are some people that think that he actually died from ingesting mercury pills. There's kind of a theory that he was trying to live forever, and he thought that because mercury was like forever moving, like had some sort of elixir of life properties. But of course, if you are really old and you ingest mercury, it's just going to kill you faster. So yeah, this guy's a big deal. He was, at his time, the most powerful ruler on the face of the earth. No, that is Omar Khayyam. um, close enough, though, right? So, what happens? Well, he does eventually die. That's what happens when you get old. And when he dies, guess who's still around? That's right. Li Si is still around. And Qin Shi Huang had chosen a particular son to be his heir. But Li Si did not like this guy. He wasn't malleable enough. And Li Si was afraid that if this particular son took over, that he would replace Li Si with this rival guy that was trying to become prime minister. You have heard that story. Is there anything to back it up? What is that? The him ingesting mercury story? Oh, hey, we got some free will over here. Yeah, really. So what ends up happening is that Li Si convinces the chosen heir of Chi Huangdi to take poison and commit suicide, so that Li Si's chosen son, the one that he wants to be to take over, can take over. This guy's name is Qin Ershi. But what happens is that Li Si overplays his hand, and the guy that is sort of gunning for his position rats him out. So the story from the taking the mercury pills actually comes from some old Chinese documents, and it's sort of extrapolated. I don't think that we have any sort of like biological proof of that. I don't think that they've. Well, I know that they haven't done any sort. Well, let me rephrase. Based on the knowledge and data that Chinese government archaeologists have released, they have not done any sort of evidence-typed gathering on his body to see if it's full of mercury poisoning or stuff like that. Based on what we know of what they told us, they haven't even really opened all of the burial chamber yet. It's still sort of being excavated, and it's being done very slowly so that they can preserve stuff. But this is very much based on what Chinese state archaeologists are going to be putting out. So that's some grade A totalitarian qualification. Yeah, right. So Li Si gets ratted out, and this is the super big irony part of the whole thing. Li Si had convinced Shi Huangdi, while he was still alive, to pass a law against poisoning that would ban poisoning and pass a death sentence for anybody caught poisoning. And Li Si gets charged under the law that he passed with poisoning the heir to the throne. And that's the end of Li Si. I love it when the story ties back up like that in such a neat little bow. Like, it kind of gives you this like Imperial China, you like this stuff, welcome Magawa. He gets hoisted on his own petard. Petard meat hoisting. Right, exactly. So Qin Ershi becomes the new emperor. And there is a hope. People are hoping in China, like, he won't be as bad as his father. He won't be as bad as his father. He won't be as bad as his father. Guess what? He's as bad as his father. Had karma been invented yet? Well, that's a great question, Vern. If you believe in Buddhism or Hinduism or Jainism, karma has always existed. The correct answer should be, had humans obtained the knowledge to properly understand karma yet? And yes, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism had all been established by this point. Hinduism as we understand it, is going to be codified somewhere between about 1700 and 700 BC. Buddhism, as we know it, is going to come from somewhere around 500-ish BC. Jainism is also going to come from around that same time. Between the 800s and about 500s is when the modern day, well, not the modern day, but the original teachings of Jainism get codified. So, yeah, karma has entered the picture. Qin Ershi is not the best ruler. He doesn't do things well. The guy that he chooses to be his prime minister is not as smart as Li Si was. He's not his father. And it doesn't take very long for the empire to start falling apart. And when it falls apart, it's going to fall really hard. And Qin Ershi only gets to rule as emperor for a very brief period of time before all of those kingdoms that had been pacified by his father decide that it's time to give it another go at independence, because people were just flat sick of the Qin dynasty. So the Qin dynasty is one of the shortest ruling dynasties of all Chinese dynasties, but they are going to have an enormous impact. The systems of China are never going to be the same again, quite literally. The foundations of the modern day country at that point had been firmly laid. The reason it's called China today comes from the Qin dynasty. And there were only really two of those guys. And if we're being honest, there was really only one of those guys. Because Qin Ershi, he's not so great. He gets to be king of Qin for the rest of his life, but he loses the empire pretty quick. 1.2. Right. So there we go. We have entered the new phase. And that brings my portion of the discussion to an end. I hope that was interesting and fun for all of you all. Hey, Chief. Hi, Pure Energy 123. How are you? So, at this point, anybody got any questions? Any more comments? Any more point redemptions? Anything? Anybody want to give me an update on how life is? Could be a teledrama. I agree. There are actually some really good historical movies that have come out of China that are about some of the big kind of set pieces in Chinese history. I have to think that there is something about Qin Shi Huang. I haven't located them yet. I know that when we get to the Three Kingdoms period, that there are some really good movies about the Three Kingdoms period, including one that's called Red Wall, which is beautiful and amazing. Let's slip the puppy of war. Dun 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 dun. Super kick 666. Spider kick rather, not super kick. I don't know where I got super kick from. Maybe I've got wrestling on the mind. Spider kick 666. Welcome to the adventure. You're good. You just ate some dinner, had some lobster Alfredo. That sounds delicious. And had a butterscotch pecan cake. I'm very jealous. I would like butterscotch pecan cake. I'm getting a little excited in the salivary glands about that. That sounds absolutely delicious. I love butterscotch, and I really like pecans as well. Let me call the puppy. Here she comes. Oh, she has the chicken. Come and see me. We actually laundered the chicken. It is not as bad. You want to come and see me? Come and see me. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, there's the puppy. No, you have to come here. Come here. Come on. Come and see me. Oh, there we go. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. Oh, so many sugars. Oh, my goodness. Hello. Hello. You want to look right here? See right here? Look right here. Hey, puppy. Oh, such a good girl. Oh, the puppy. Yeah, she got a bath yesterday too. She had decided to. There's your chicken. She decided to find something that was sewage smelling and do the typical "I should roll in this" maneuver. Other people's pets are getting you through this pandemic. Kelly, I love the mantra. Just keep up. Yeah, the chicken got laundered. When Kaylee got into the stinky stuff yesterday, Brittany had to give her an emergency bath. And it turned out that she had, in between rolling in whatever sewage typed or smelling material existed, and Brittany smelling it, she had laid down on her puppy blanket and also played with the chicken. So the puppy blankets and the chicken both also smelled like garbage. So they all went into the washer. The chicken did not disintegrate in the wash. We had to dry it a few times because the squeakers got... You assumed it was held together with foam and death incarnate. That is not an undeserved assessment. The chicken is indestructible. It actually is marketed as an indestructible toy. It has all sorts of squeakers inside of it. She's somehow managed to puncture the squeakers inside the chicken, though. She has an uncanny ability to destroy things. I have no idea how she's getting it done. But that's the puppy. Her name is Kaylee. I hope everybody enjoyed seeing the puppy. She can be quite cute, and she can be loving. She can also be a giant friggin' mess that costs way too much money. But such is owning a pet, right? So, we got anything else? Any other business? Anybody have ideas or thoughts or stuff to share? I will remind everybody of what's coming up. So next week on Tuesday, tentatively scheduled, we have a viewer request episode that you all voted on astrology, trying to predict our futures and our lives with the stars. I will be 100% honest and let you know that I am incredibly weary right now, and I've got to type an entire paper this weekend. So keep an eyeball on the Discord, because if things play out in any sort of way but ideal, I might not have time to put that stream together. I'm going to try my best, but I will not do promises. I think it's going to happen. I think I'll be okay, but I don't want to get everybody super excited and then just go. So think positive, send good vibes, and I'll appreciate that. Next Thursday, you have a question. Hit me, Kelly. You are welcome to ask. While I'm waiting for that, rank 3 things. Oh man, you're killing me. You are killing me. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and X-Men. Oh my good gracious. That's like ranking children, Kilted. Good. Oh man. Oh man. Let me answer Kelly's question because I think that might be easier. What factors were keeping the soldiers from just saying, no man, we just helped those guys last battle. Why do we have to kill them now? Fear of death and torture. Also, one of the things that Chen Shi Huang would do is send you really, really, really far away from your home to fight. So, like, if you're from native northern China, he would take your army and send you, like, to really far southern China. And by doing so, he would separate you from basically any hope of getting back home alive without him, fending for yourself without him, surviving without him. Uh, so you were really under a lot of stress to follow the friggin' rules. That's a good question, though. Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, X-Men. Are we talking about combined universes here? Are we talking about books here? Are we talking about movies here? Give me a little bit more to go on. Astrology had a massive role in developing mathematics and real astronomy. Yeah, astrology is actually pretty influential. You're going universes. Oh, that makes it even harder. Thank you. But we'll say books to narrow it down. Oh, that's easy. That actually makes it a lot better. If we're going pure books, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, X-Men. If we're going universes, that's much harder. Universes is going to be Star Wars. Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, X-Men. But that's hard. Because, man, I love me some X-Men. Yeah, so if we're going pure universes, Star Wars has got to be first. You got to dance with the one that brought you, right? Star Wars was my babysitter when I was a kid. And they have a multiverse. Yeah, so why not? Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, X-Men. But that hurts me. That hurts me in a deep way because I don't like even... It's very much like picking children. Modern astrology is crap, or more precisely, everything after science is advanced thanks to it. Yeah, pretty much. How are you downgrading the Lord of the Rings universe because of the Hobbit movies? Yeah. Yeah. Those Hobbit movies are hot gutter trash. I would like to meet my Earth 616 counterpart. What would that be, Vern? Like, what would your superhero persona be? What would your superpower be? Everybody tell me your superpower. This is one of the things that I have in the Discord that nobody actually went to. Like, if the way that I posed the question was, everybody has this thing that they can do that's, like, weird and unique. And if you were judged by the one little weird and unique thing that you can do and that became your superpower, what would your superpower be? And mine is, I would always know how long it took to microwave things. I know a couple of you did, but I don't know. I just try to be goofy. Weird luck. I found a $10 bill on the sidewalk. If you could do enough of that, you could be a millionaire. What's the Discord? Vern, there is a program called Discord that KP just dropped there. If you click that link, it's basically a message board system where we goof around offline. I post really bad history memes and goofy pictures. Okay, you know what Discord is. I'm sorry. You know, my bad. I was trying to be helpful. Mine might be stealth abilities, but only in shopping centers. Woodland creatures flock to you and you sing. Oh, that would be a great one. You'd never go hungry that way. Of course, you'd have to kill the cute woodland creatures, which would be bad and sad, I guess. But... all right, ladies and gents. Let's see who we might be rating. Let's see. Let us see. Loader movies are at least pretty good, even if they have a couple things like shield skating. Yeah, I didn't care for the shield skating. That was a bit much. Okie dokie. Who is live? Ooh, lots of choices tonight. Lots and lots of choices. Let's see. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Look, where's the button? There's the button. Better than air running Legolas. Hey, let's not bring up the Hobbit movies. Those are so bad. They are just so bad. See ya, Pure Energy. Hope you have a good one, my friend. Let's see where we're going to go raid. We could raid Kirk Shannon. Kirk Shannon. We could raid Mighty May. Mighty May is working on... Is she painting an owl on an owl feather? Mighty May is painting an owl on a feather. I don't know if it's an owl feather, but I know it's a feather. 8 p.m. is on, and he's in another one of his hype things. So, as cool as those are, I don't know if I want to drop in the middle another one of his hype things. Crush is streaming now and talking about graffiti. And Cave Geek is making a new map on leather with his pyrography pen. The Hobbit movies are basically 3 movies of Legolas shield skating, and that's not... Yeah, that's true. So we've got 1 vote to go bother Crush. Anybody else have opinions? We did raid Crush last week, and I don't have a problem with going to raid Crush again. Do we have any other thoughts? Anybody have opinions? How many people know who Mighty May is? I don't think we've ever raided her. I'm trying to spread the Twitch love. I want to make sure that people get exposure to lots of folks. I kind of want to see the feather painting. I was kind of leaning towards raiding her because I don't think that we have ever raided her. I think I'm just going to make a command decision, and we're going to go raid Mighty May. Mighty May is super cool. She is very chill. She's been on the Twitch front page, which I think is amazing. One day, maybe we will be on the Crutch on the front page. I do as well. You don't know how to spell her name. That's okay. Well, I'm about to hit the raid, so we'll all head over that way. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to hit this button. I'll talk a little bit, then I'll hit the outro. I appreciate everybody for coming by. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will say one thing. If you are in the market and you have an interest, this is not really a huge thing and I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but we are just a couple subscribers away from unlocking another emote, which would be cool, but I'm not going to do the hard pitch, so just a thought. I will hopefully see everybody on Tuesday. Keep an eyeball on the Discord for that. And I'll see everybody next time.